Hi everyone, I'm Konstantinos. This is Crypto Unplugged, and today we're gonna nail alt season. So we're gonna get to the bottom of it, and we're gonna discuss if, when, and how long and how big altcoin season will be. I think I have now fixed the sound issues, so you should hear me much better, much louder. If not, please let me know in the comments. And now, let's get straight into it. So, when alt season? The answer is actually very simple, and it's when Bitcoin dominance breaks down. So let's open Bitcoin dominance and let's get a picture perfect image of when this will happen. So back in November, in a private group, I said when everyone was calling for a top of Bitcoin dominance at 60%, I said that I cannot see any reason why it cannot go to a minimum of 65%. So now we have reached the point that Bitcoin dominance is almost at 65%. Everyone is calling for a top at around 66%. And what I'm gonna say today is that I don't see any reason why Bitcoin dominance cannot go up to a minimum of 70%. So let's dive into this chart, which is on the weekly, and see what is going on here. So you see that in the beginning of 2017, it was the time that Bitcoin dominance broke down completely. So you could argue that this was a point in history when people switched from associating cryptocurrency with Bitcoin to associating cryptocurrency not only with Bitcoin, but then cryptocurrency became an asset with a lot more coins other than Bitcoin. Since then, you could argue that Bitcoin dominance is oscillating between this around 39% and 70 to 73%. So it's a little bit wrapped within a range. So I have drawn that as a range. So it's the bottom here, and then when it comes to the top, I have drawn that as a range within a range. So what is happening here is that you will see that here at the 70% in end of 2020, beginning of 2021, we had a few weeks that the dominance wicked above 70%, but it didn't close above, or it closed at, I don't know, 70.3. So even though it wicked all the way up to 73, almost 74%. So this for me is a range. It's an area where Bitcoin dominance is likely to reject. People are calling for 66, and this chart doesn't give me any reason to believe that it will reject here. I mean, in the 60C range, yeah, you have a rejection here, you have some rejection, some support here. However, it's not such a significant level. So a rejection can happen any point from here going upwards, but if we want to be very realistic and see where are the more chances for Bitcoin dominance to reject, it's not 66, it's between 70 and 73. So the same people that say that Bitcoin dominance will reject at 66 if you would show them this chart, and this would be not the Bitcoin dominance, but the Bitcoin price, do you know what they would tell you? They would tell you this is a range, and that they would expect Bitcoin to go up on this range, maybe reject, then break above, come back, find support, go higher. However, the same chart, they now call for Bitcoin dominance to reject at 66. And this is purely based on wishful thinking and bias. So I would say that it is very likely for Bitcoin to go to 70%, reject to 70, 71, and anywhere between 70 and 74. And actually, it is very likely to see a deviation of this range. So actually, Bitcoin dominance could spike up. It could go easily up to even 80%, and then deviate the range, come back within the range, reject, drop. So this is what this chart tells us, and it's if you be factual and unbiased, I think the image it's quite clear itself. So what does that mean in terms of timing? So in terms of timing, it means that this can grind up to the 70. So you see, my cursor now is already in September 2025. So this is a scenario that can play out. It means that the blow off top, the absolute parabolic phase of the alts, it could actually be end of Q3 or Q4, or even go early 2026. So this is absolutely possible. However, this doesn't mean that alts will have to bleed up until then. So there has been a very nice change recently, which is over the past few weeks, Bitcoin dominance goes up while the market goes up. So before, we were kind of conditioned, excuse me, we were kind of conditioned to see Bitcoin dominance going up on big red days. So when the market would correct, Bitcoin dominance will go up, altcoins would go absolutely wrecked. Now, Bitcoin is just driving the market upwards. So it goes up, however, the whole market goes up. So the altcoins go up as well, not as much as Bitcoin. This is very positive because actually you should be happy when that happens, and you don't really want Bitcoin dominance to reject at 66. You want Bitcoin dominance to reach as high as possible, because then the drop is going to be bigger. This chart, to my eyes, it's inevitable that it will fall off a cliff. At some point, it's going to break and it's going to keep bleeding down. And I think we should expect it to go back to the 39-40%. So why I would hope for, a 25% drop on the Bitcoin dominance, where I could get 30% drop or 35% drop. So as long as my altcoin bags don't bleed on the Bitcoin grind up, then I'm happy for that to happen. That means, that as Bitcoin dominance goes up, we should have been positioned in Bitcoin rather than altcoins. However, if you have already rotated into altcoins, it is very risky to go back to Bitcoin, because it's not certain that dominance will reach that level. It may reject earlier. So it's not the time to rotate to Bitcoin. I think the time was much lower. There are people that believe that the altcoin season already happened, with the meme coin season and the AI agent seasons and everything. However, what this chart tells us, it tells us that this was this correction here. So this correction was the parabolic phase for AI agents. So these wicks here, and I'm gonna bring up virtual, which is a very, very, very nice example. So here at in November, mid-November, early December, we had this 3 weeks significant drop. Significant in this context, in the context of how Bitcoin dominance was behaving up to that point. So this drop caused virtual to do this move. So now what has happened? It took for virtual, it took Bitcoin dominance like 10, 11, 12% drop to do this parabolic rally. In the past 3 weeks, with Bitcoin dominance actually going up, virtual have done a move of, let me bring that up again. So virtual has done more than 300%, more than 4x in the past 3-4 weeks, while Bitcoin dominance goes up. So I'm gonna challenge you and I'm gonna tell you, imagine what is gonna happen if Bitcoin dominance doesn't fall 10 or 11%, but it falls a minimum of 25%. It's been a very tough time for altcoins. They have been bleeding for 3 years or so against Bitcoin, and I think people have been conditioned now to believe that alt season may not come, that this little period was the actual alt season. A lot of people, a lot of influencers, a lot of YouTubers, now they're actually certain that there's not gonna be an alt season as in the previous cycles. However, nothing suggests that. I think it has been so long that people have now lost faith, which makes me very bullish, because things happen the moment that people really start to believe that this time is different. Usually it's never different. The same happens, but happens when everyone thinks that this time is different. So let's dive into more charts. USDT dominance. And let's see what's happening here. And this I'm gonna go better on the daily chart. Okay. So here, USDT dominance, it actually shows the rotation from stablecoins to Bitcoin and altcoins, and it has an inverse correlation with the price of Bitcoin. So effectively what you want is you want this chart to break down in order for the Bitcoin price to go up. So here on the daily chart, I think you have a very clear distribution pattern. Top 1, top 2, top 3. Very clear distribution. You have a range here, deviation of the range, the price drops. And I think now this chart looks as there is no hope for USDT dominance. It's like on a free fall. You have this big red candle here. As I have mentioned previously, whenever you see big inefficiency candles like that, price tends to go to fill at least 50% of this candle. we have this wick here, you see. Actually, this wick here went pretty much to fill the 50% of this candle, which means that we might not see a bigger bounce. Maybe we will see a bigger bounce, but maybe not. Excuse me. So now it is actually very possible that we will see another significant red candle downwards. Maybe yes, maybe not, but the direction is downwards. Either we continue here down, or we bounce a little bit and we go down. And if you see, this actually it's really the inverse of the BTC price, which means if this drops, BTC from here goes up. So next chart that I want to show you is also something that I should not forget here. You see there is a very clear level here that I haven't drawn. So at this area of 3.8%, it's a level that we expect USDT dominance to reach. Question is whether it's gonna bounce from there or not. So this now, and I'm gonna put this line here, I should have put it, I think is an area of alert, caution, and possibly profit taking. This white line is a more extreme of that, so this is definitely profit taking. And if Bitcoin dominance reaches this region here, the moment that it hits 3.1% or something, if it goes there, so if USDT dominance goes there and you're still holding crypto, this is the time that you sell everything you have and you run to the hills. So in this region you are holding zero crypto, nada. Then next one, ETH BTC. So this chart shows us the correlation of ETH against BTC. Chart goes down, it means that ETH underperforms BTC. Chart goes up, it means that ETH overperforms against BTC. So now, again, I need to put that in the weekly so we can see better, because it's a very long chart. So here, I have drawn this line here in the very bottom. It's a line that I don't expect this chart to go, and I expect Ethereum against BTC to bounce from this region here. It's actually in this region right now. So now I do expect Ethereum to bounce back and start a rally. It can take, a little bit of time to hit up, but I expect a bounce. We are in the region. Whether it's going to go all the way down to this range or not, I don't know. So maybe the bottom of the chart is already in, maybe not. However, if Bitcoin dominance goes up in green days, that's fine. It means that, Bitcoin can go up without our altcoins back bleeding. I do believe, guys, that Ethereum is gonna go up a lot, and I do see Ethereum as a proxy for altcoins. However, if you open other charts of other altcoins against BTC, you will see a very similar picture. And the question is whether everything is in a very similar position. The question is whether they're gonna bounce now or they will really go all the way down. Yeah, this needs to be found. Next up, I'm going to show you the correlation of BTC to global liquidity, and I'm gonna open the M2 money supply. But for this to work, this chart, this indicator that I use here works only on the daily. So if you use that on a different time frame, it's gonna look off. Now, yeah, it's a little bit a weird behavior of this indicator, because I should have switched to daily before turning it on, because then it gets a little bit confused. I don't know if it's an issue with the script. Yeah, it will not position it now. Okay. Okay, here, let me take it up. So, global liquidity seems to have a direct correlation to the Bitcoin price. However, it's a lead indicator, and it leads by 2 to 3 months. So here I have put an offset of 808 days. So the yellow line, which is the M2 money supply, it's offsetted by 108 days. It's not very clear if the correlation is bigger at 108 days or 77 days. So it's unclear. But however, 77 days, 8 days, 808 days, this period of 2 to 3 months, they have a big correlation. So it means that maybe you cannot predict exactly the date. However, in all the time frames, the general direction is the same. And this is my main thesis. I think what has been happening this year, it's that the realization that Bitcoin, more than anything else, is correlated to global liquidity and the strength of the dollar, as opposed to seasonality. There is seasonality, but it doesn't mean that because 4 years ago something happened on February, 4 years later it has to happen again on February. So there is some sort of time displacement, but it's very clear that the Bitcoin price follows the global liquidity and follows the strength of the dollar. So my thesis is that the 4-year cycle is still intact and everything it plays to perfection. Another comment that I want to do here is that a lot of people see a deviation from the previous cycles, and this is not true. I think this happens because there is a deviation comparing to the previous cycle, the 2021, which is more recent, so people have memories of that. However, 2021 and 2017 were quite different. I mean, in terms of time displacement. And this cycle seems to be very correlated to the 2017 cycle. So if you look at 2021, yes, there is deviation. If you look to 2017, there is not so much deviation, because in 2017, Bitcoin and altcoin started going up from April of 2017 all the way to the Q4 of 2017. It seems that something like this might be repeating this year. DXY, strength of the dollar, inverse correlation to the price of Bitcoin, and also it's a 2-month lead. So a move that we see on the DXY chart, we expect the inverse move to happen on the price of Bitcoin 2 months later. It's 2-month lead. So if DXY drops today, we don't expect the price of Bitcoin to go up today. Here you see January 2025, mid-January, beginning of February. It's where DXY put its stop. So if you take January, February, and you go 2 months ahead, so you go to March and April, it's where Bitcoin put its bottom. Inverse correlation. What happens to DXY at top happens to Bitcoin 2 months later. Here. This is Monday 7th of April, the bottom of the Bitcoin price. I did a tweet on Monday 7th of April, and I said, it is very hard to time the bottom. However, a lot of data suggests that there is a good chance that the crypto market will be putting its low today. Guys, I gave you the exact day of the bottom, the moment that it was happening. I said that the risk to reward ratio of buying spot at this level shouldn't be easily faded. Link below $11. Sui is now above $3. Ondo is $90. Tau is approaching $400. Caspa is around 10 cents. 10 cents, yes. Render is, I don't know, around 5 cents now, and so on. Aero, guys, Aero below 30 cents now is around 70 cents, and these are all big caps. So in 3 weeks, it's like, I think, an average of 2x on large caps, while the Bitcoin dominance goes up. So when this is going to happen, when alt season is going to happen, the answer is whenever the Bitcoin dominance chart starts breaking down. So this can happen in May, this can happen in June, but this is actually possible to happen in September or October. So you need to be prepared for that. And you need to be very factual when you see other people putting targets that don't really reflect the actual situation. I want to talk about the total crypto market cap. So a year ago, I set my targets for the crypto market cap as of conservatively 6 to 7 trillion for the total crypto market cap at the top of the cycle. A reasonable target would be 10 to 11 trillion, and the very bullish target would be 16 to 20 trillion. So let's dive again in this chart here. Let's put it on the weekly. So this is the total crypto market cap. It includes all the coins, including Bitcoin. So let's see what has happened here. So here is March 2020, and the total crypto market cap was just above 100 billion, and on the top of the cycle is 3 trillion. So in the previous bull run, from the total crypto market cap from bottom to top did a 30x. I repeat, did a 30x. So far, from the bottom here, it has done a move of 5x. So I would argue that if one cycle does 30x, and if I have to assume diminishing returns, I wouldn't put it at 5x from bottom to top. I would put it to 10, 15. I don't want to say 20, but something like 10, 15. Also, another thing that I'm looking at is from the top of the 2017 cycle to the top of 2021. It's 300%. It's a 4x on the total crypto market cap. And I use this. I'm assuming diminishing returns, and I'm saying, okay, maybe from top to top of this cycle, it's not gonna be a 4x, but maybe it's gonna be a 2x. Where do we stand now? From here to here. So far, we've gone up 25%. If we do a 2x from the top of the previous bull run, so 2x is 100% move, we go here, almost 6 trillion, which is my base case. Okay, 6 to 7 trillion is the base case. I think it's very reasonable. It's quite expected for the total crypto market cap to reach that point. I do believe that it's very reasonable and realistic to go to 10 trillion, but I'm not gonna use that in my analysis, and I don't need to use that. So look at this chart. Look where we are, and look where is 6 trillion. Look what is left in the cycle. So let's now go to the total 2. Total 2 is the total crypto market cap excluding Bitcoin, so includes everything else and Ethereum. And let me tell you now why you don't want to see an alt season happening now. Because alt season, when the Bitcoin dominance breaks down, it means two things. It can break down because people sell their Bitcoin for alts, or you have new money coming into the market, and those new money go mostly to altcoins than Bitcoin. Okay, this is how you can alter reasonably the Bitcoin dominance. Arguably, maybe you have when Bitcoin dominance drops significantly, maybe both things happen. You have new money coming in the market, and most of the new money go mostly to altcoins comparing to Bitcoin, and at the same time, people that hold a lot of Bitcoin, they rotate their profits and they sell Bitcoin for alts. So now, where we stand today? So the total crypto market cap, it's almost 3 trillion today, of which 2 trillion is Bitcoin, and 1 trillion is everything else. So I don't want people to start rotating their Bitcoin now to altcoins, because now there are 2 trillion on Bitcoin, and you know, in an extreme scenario, which is not realistic, if everyone sells all their Bitcoin for altcoins, it means that we will get 2 trillion USD into the altcoins. So I don't want that to happen. Why? Because I want Bitcoin dominance to go up while Bitcoin goes up. So I want this to keep grinding up, and I want to reach, like, 4-5 trillion of the total market cap, and I want the Bitcoin dominance at that point to be 70%. So if the total crypto market cap is 5 trillion and Bitcoin dominance is 70%, so that would be like 3.5 trillion on Bitcoin, as opposed to 1.9, which is today. So it means that obviously I prefer if the market cap of Bitcoin doubles before all this money start flowing into the altcoins, because it's just there will be so much more money to flow into the altcoins. So it has been painful so far to wait for an alt season that never comes. A very important reason that we've been waiting for an alt season that never comes is that you have a lot of influencers out there and YouTubers that they have been calling for an alt season for more than a year. So there have been people that are like, oh, it's this pump in Bitcoin dominance and then it's next alt season, and this doesn't happen. And then next month it's this pump on Bitcoin dominance and then it's the breakdown and this is the alt season, and this never happens. And they keep saying this and repeating and repeating and repeating. However, it only takes some basic understanding of chart of technical analysis for you to be able, guys, to form very to form opinions for yourselves. Because now, if you understand a little bit of TA, this chart is very clear. It's very, very clean. Obviously, anything can happen. Obviously, we cannot predict the future. And yes, it can reject from a level that is not so strong as the level above. It can happen. But why it wouldn't go, to the previous top? Why this wouldn't go to the top of the range? When a chart oscillates within a range, the expectation is that it goes from the top of the range to the bottom of the range and then again to the top of the range. And at some point, you would expect the chart to leave the range, either to break above or to break below. You don't really expect the chart to reject at a nothing level. Actually, here you see, you can argue that it went back to the 50% line, it deviated, so it bounced from the 50% of this range, and now it goes up. And you don't know how it's gonna go up because it can reach this range within a week. You can have like a black swan event, you can have a lot of things. You can see like a huge week up, down, and then that's it, and then rejection. But it can keep grinding slowly, so you cannot predict the time. Then other things that I would like to mention is that if BTC, this chart, is very, very, very correlated to the monetary policy. So during quantitative tightening, Ethereum tends to bleed against Bitcoin. And this is the truth for altcoins in general. So what happens in monetary policy, it's very correlated to what is going to happen in the altcoin market. We don't necessarily need quantitative easing. Quantitative easing will bring new liquidity to the market. However, there are other ways to bring liquidity into the market. So we don't expect quantitative easing. However, we would like to have the end of quantitative tightening, and that's enough. We don't really need more than that. I also want to talk about the rate cuts, which is one of the most, how to call it, confusing is not the right word. So looking at the past, the correlation of the rate cuts to how the markets go it has been a hit or miss, and it depends on so many factors and the exact context of when a rate cut happens, whether this is going to be good or bad for the markets. So actually, it's a very a risky factor, because you don't only want rate cuts to happen, but you want rate cuts to happen in a very particular context, so that the markets perceive it in a positive way. And the markets are very emotional, and emotions change like very quickly on the flick of a moment. So even though today it feels that a rate cut would boost the markets, maybe something happens in 2 days and now the markets don't like rate cuts anymore. So rate cuts higher for longer, I think it's a safer place to be. So we don't care about rate cuts, we just want liquidity to come into the market, and we don't necessarily need the rate cuts for that to happen. Obviously they can help, but it's not a requirement. And also, what is happening imminently now, you need to be aware that there is an FOMC meeting coming on Wednesday, and it might dictate not where things are going, but maybe it will give us a little bit more clarity on the time frame. There have been a few things last week. We had the non-farm payrolls that came up much higher than expected, showing some strength on the labor market, which means that this reduces the chance of a rate cut. However, we had a negative GDP reading, which might mean that okay, we need a rate cut. I think at the moment there is a lot of data. Some of them are contradicting. So it could be the case, as it often happens, that there will be some de-risking before the FOMC meeting, which means that the Bitcoin price, and not only the Bitcoin price but altcoins as well, can pull back before the FOMC. But this again, I don't know what that means, because they can start pulling back from today all the way till Wednesday, and then depending on what happens on Wednesday, we'll get a direction. I feel that it's not gonna start to bleed from today till Wednesday. De-risking, if it happens, it will happen from Monday to Wednesday, or from Tuesday to Wednesday, or it can be just a few hours before the actual data come out. So what is happening today? It's Saturday. Bitcoin price is pulling a little bit back. However, typically weekends are very slow, and the price tends, at the end of the weekend, tends to close around the price of the end of the week. So around this level, at the almost 97,000, which was the closing price on Friday. So if it goes down on Saturday, there is a very good chance that if today is a red day, tomorrow it's gonna be a green day, and the price is gonna close around the 97,000 mark, and then we'll see on Monday what's the next move. So I think I covered everything that I wanted to cover. Guys, I'm trying to get the hang of speaking on a camera and everything. I know that my videos could go a little bit quicker. I'm trying to improve. I hope it's not very tiring. Now I realize that this is a 45 minutes long video. However, I really believe that this has been very gave you some clarity around Bitcoin dominance, around alt season, about what to expect and when. And if you feel that way, please like, subscribe. And yes, I'll see you in the next one, probably sometime very, very soon. Take care.